You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Tuesday, February 25th. Out here on location in Maui on vacation, but here for a wedding. And so the wedding is actually today. Been here for a couple of days now, but the wedding's later this evening. It's only 11 here in Hawaii, so I got some downtime. So I thought I'd talk about, some topics coming out of the NFL Combine as is happening today. Like you're seeing some interviews with head coaches and GMs happening today. John Lynch, by the way, is going to be speaking with the media tomorrow, Wednesday. And so we'll get a lot of information, new quotes, tidbits, and all that, probably more so tomorrow. And then, of course, like throughout the week, we'll get people interviewing players, and we'll know which players are meeting with the 49ers and whatnot. So there'll be plenty more, which is why I brought my laptop here on vacation. I wasn't expecting that I would do a show, but I would, stay ready. So you don't have to get ready. I brought all my equipment with me just in case I'd have a minute. And yeah, I do. So I figure I'd just do a little quick show to, talk about what's been happening in the last day or so. Some rumors, of course. There's going to be a lot of rumors throughout the week. And there's going to be some talks that happen at the Combine in Indy that's going to get the ball rolling to some things eventually happening. For example, the Brock Purdy extension, very possible. Some productive conversations with agents will be happening for the 49ers who are interested in trading Deebo Samuel. There could be some more interesting discussions happening around that. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting week. And of course, can't wait to talk about it with Weston, like when I'm back on Monday. So we'll probably rehash some of these same topics then. But, again, just going to do a quick show to talk about it right now with you guys. Hopefully my the Wi-Fi is all right at the hotel. Let me know if it's not great. Not that I can do anything about it, but let me know anyway, I guess. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things here. So we got Tim K, who he said this yesterday. So on the 49ers side of things, one that should be pretty public, one that might not. I'm trying to pick up from the Combine from afar. So he's trying to get an update on the Brock Purdy negotiation vibes, all right, which, like I said, as expected, we're going to hear something about that at some point during this week, right? So, yes, ears are on the ground for sure for the 49er beat writers who are out there, and there's quite a few of them. And the second thing is, could the 49ers push their way into trade talks for a high-end defensive lineman? He's hearing maybe. Tim K is hearing maybe. He's been saying this for some time now, if I'm not mistaken. Even, I think he said he heard it even before the Myles Garrett trade rumor was a thing, that the 49ers would be interested in trading for a defensive lineman. So a couple things there. The Browns, I think it was their GM, spoke with the media today. He's standing pat that the Browns are not interested in trading Myles Garrett at all. Now, whether or not that is true or not, or whether he's trying to just, increase the value a little bit and see if he can increase the offers that he's get. I don't know. I truly don't know. Also, maybe they just don't want to trade him. Like, yeah, I don't know why a team would want to trade a player that good. And just because a player does request a trade doesn't always mean that is going to be honored. So yeah, we'll see what happens on that front. But in any case, like I would not be shocked if what Tim K is saying here is correct, that, the 49ers do trade, or at least look into trading for a high-end defensive lineman, right? I think they're going to do their due diligence on all those different options. So another thing, so Commanders defensive tackle Jonathan Allen is going to be traded, or at least the Commanders are having discussions about potentially trading him. I've seen another report saying that he's likely to get released, of course, if they don't find a trade partner for him. So that ultimately may be what happens with Jonathan Allen. 49ers have a need at defensive tackle, right? So it makes sense for the 49ers to look into that at some point. And let's not forget, this is a very deep defensive tackle class. So I don't know if the 49ers would trade for a defensive tackle, but, if you can get Jonathan Allen and he's a free agent, like if the Commanders release him, I think that would make things, pretty interesting for them. And of course, I do expect them to draft a defensive tackle, maybe even double dip at the position in this year's draft. That's how deep it is right now. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this one's pretty exciting, I think. The 49ers signed offensive lineman Ben Bartch to a 1-year extension. Now, as of right now, even in this post that was posted by the 49ers themselves, they did not say for how much that 1 year is going to be, but they have agreed on a 1-year extension. Ben Bartch was set to be a free agent, so they get this done before he hits free agency. And I think that's a great deal. Like, he was definitely someone who, I had pegged as someone who the 49ers could re-sign back. I did think that would probably happen after, the first wave of free agency, but clearly they like Ben Bartch enough to not have him even test free agency and have the risk of him not returning. So he's going to be back, 1-year deal. He's probably going to be competing at that left guard spot. He's probably going to be, I would think, the top choice for that. But again, there's going to be competition. I do still expect that the 49ers will either sign a low tier guard in free agency and or bring in a draftee, right? That can compete at that left guard spot as well. They're set at right guard. They got Dominic Pooney, and I don't see that changing. So yeah, it's really just left guard that is going to see some competition. Aaron Banks, of course, who's been the left guard for the 49ers when he's been available, he's going to be a free agent more than likely. So I think it's going to be Ben Bartch, Nick Zakelj, who's still under contract, and a free agent and or a draft pick that they bring in to compete at that left guard spot. But I thought Ben Bartch looked great there, when he started and when he got that opportunity to play there. It was short-lived, right, before he got hurt. But yeah, no actual shows, but this is kind of just a little. I had time, Dre. So I thought I'd spare some moments to talk about some stuff. I can't help it, man. I love this stuff. I love what I do. So, but yeah, after this, if I might not do any shows rest of the week. But anyway, yeah, Ben Bartch, I think I liked what he did, in his limited time. So I think this is a great signing for the 49ers. And I have to imagine that, again, we don't have the numbers yet for this 1-year deal, how much he's going to be getting paid in 2025. But I have to imagine it's probably at pretty decent value, right? So I think this is a legitimate shot that he's the starting left guard in 2025. I'll just say that. But yeah, there will be competition as well. So that's exciting. I like the signing. I really do. All right, let's go to the next topic here. All right, so this is something I've talked about, and it's finally come to light. Mike Green. All right, you guys finally see what the off-field issue was, and I've been hinting at it since around the Senior Bowl. If you guys have been listening to the show. And yeah, now we know it's out. Someone else has said it, so I can say it's a sexual assault charge. And he had a similar charge back in high school. And then at Virginia, they brought him on and pretty much told him like it was a no nonsense agreement with Virginia. So it's like we'll give you a chance. If anything happens, like you're out of here. Happened again in Virginia. So that's why it was a very abrupt and almost secretive divorce there with Mike Green in Virginia. And yeah, that explains it. That explains why he went to Marshall, much smaller school, so that's the thing on Mike Green, who's seen as many as top 10 talent at the edge rushing position, right? And for this draft overall player. But as I hinted then, and I think you guys can see why now, I don't think the 49ers would draft him based on this. He would be off the 49ers draft board. Now, I can't fault him for that. I think he should be. So let's stop mock drafting Mike Green, because I don't think that's going to happen for the 49ers. At the same time, what's going to happen is he's probably going to end up on the Eagles. Like, all these teams are going to pass on him, and then he's going to go to the Eagles at pick 32. I think that would suck. But, I mean, yeah, I don't think this is a risk worth taking for the 49ers. So I'm okay with the 49ers not taking that risk. I'd rather another team take that one. But yeah, so Mike Green probably off the 49ers board. I think you guys can all understand why. So again, it's out there now, and we can just move on from this. All right, so let's see here. What else do we got? So a couple other things about, some of the prospects that are in this draft. Now, one of the things that has come up in regards to the 49ers, though, actually, Diana Russini, who dropped her latest Scoop City podcast episode, she said that Brandon Aiyuk is a player that a lot of teams had interest in before he signed that deal last year. Remember, he signed that 4-year, $120 million deal. Some teams are poking around now to see if the 49ers would be willing to deal Aiyuk. All right. So it's not surprising to me that teams were interested in Aiyuk last year, right? But again, the 49ers extended him. They made their bed. I expect that they'll lay in it. What I think this is indicative of, though, however, that teams even still, after an ACL tear, after a 4-year, $120 million deal, for teams to even still be interested in Brandon Aiyuk, given that, I think it tells you that teams are starting to realize that maybe this draft class is not great for wide receivers. So wide receiver needy teams, maybe not completely sold on this draft class of receivers. And so that could explain why they're poking around on a high-paid wide receiver, talented, who's also coming off an ACL injury. So I think that could be why. I don't think that Brandon Aiyuk does get traded. I could see why people would be in support of it, because some people still are not fans of that contract, and probably even more so after his injury. Gives people some pause. I get it. There's also some dead cap hits in his contract that the 49ers would have to eat, in order to move him. So and then you're still in the same spot of needing a wide receiver. And as I said, this wide receiver class is not good. It's not bad, but it's not it's not that good. Like some of these receivers, if they were in another class, like say from last year or the year before that, it'd probably be a completely different ball game for those players. They'd probably be getting drafted much later in the draft, right? So if that tells you anything, but that's my sense. I think that this year's wide receiver draft class is why teams would be interested in Brandon Ayuk even still. But I think that's why the 49ers should hang on to Brandon Ayuk. And by the way, like they do with most of their contracts, they have a potential out eventually with Brandon Ayuk. And his contract is 2027, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2027. And that at that time would have a 9.2 million dead cap, which is, easier to swallow at that point. So I think if the 49ers want to move on from Brandon Ayuk, it would be till then. I'm not expecting that to be an option for them right now. So I don't think that Brandon Ayuk gets traded, but I do think the 49ers will draft a wide receiver, but they don't have to I don't think they need to address it super early in the draft. We'll see. And to kind of go along with what I was saying about, what people are saying about this wide receiver draft class, like I was just seeing this, like, so Mel Kiper on ESPN First Draft Podcast apparently stated that the league does not view Arizona wide receiver McMillan as a top 10 player after talking to his sources from across the league. Instead, McMillan's range is viewed as being 12 to Dallas down to 22 to the Chargers. So, I think this kind of tells you what I was just saying and what I'm suspecting, that this draft class, teams are not as high on this wide receiver class as, some in the past. And even guys who are seen as first round guys, not viewed too highly by NFL teams. So McMillan is in that category, which again, I don't know if this comes to fruition. There's always reports around this time leading up to the draft that never actually happened. So this could very well be one of them. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But I definitely think it's interesting. And when I'm hearing that, or when we're seeing that Brandon Ayuk is getting interest for a trade from other teams, it does kind of make this feel true, doesn't it? Here's the other thing. Marcus Mosher posted this. He said, so Todd McShay, Mel Kiper Jr., Daniel Jeremiah all have Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden III falling out of round 1 in their mock drafts. That's surprising, but a lot of these guys do their mock drafts based on what they're hearing. So are they hearing that Luther Burden is not a first-round player for a lot of teams? It could be possible. It's possible. And so, again, it goes back to my point that I don't think teams are viewing this wide receiver class as a very strong one. So take that for what it is, I guess. I don't really know. Oh, no. Another rumor that has come out was that Rob Gronkowski may be interested in returning to the NFL. This one might be a short-lived rumor, though, because Ben Albright did speak with some people in the know and apparently said it's a nothing burger. So there hasn't been anything concrete with Gronkowski making a return. It'd be intriguing, right? Like, man, I'm sure he's got some left in the tank. But yeah, I don't see this as an option right now. I'm gonna just pretend I didn't see it. Just gonna pretend I didn't see it. And for everyone who's talking about T. Higgins and the 49ers should sign T. Higgins because they're going to likely, and I'm just saying, I think likely release Debo. T. Higgins could be an option. Well, it sounds like, based on what the Bengals GM said, it sounds like they're going to pay T. Higgins, and it sounds like they're going to pay Jamar Chase quite handsomely as well. So both of those guys, I think I'm expecting as of right now that they would stay on the Bengals. They're going to get paid. So that, again, is another option. Of course, if T. Higgins hit the open market, like he would hands down be the top wide receiver in free agency. Even like the free agency class of wide receivers is not too inspiring, right? So again, like teams that are in need of a wide receiver, it's going to be interesting. Even still, I don't think teams are, and Diana Rossini actually said this, like teams aren't really clamoring for Deebo Samuel, even in a wide receiver needy off season, I guess. Yeah. And that's because Deebo is not much of a wide receiver. Like Deebo's not the wide receiver that's gonna solve wide receiver needy teams' problems. He's just not, right? So yeah, there's definitely a limited market for him. That's why I think the 49ers eventually do release him. Again, they're gonna have to make that choice before March 22nd, right? So we'll hear more. I'm sure after this week there's gonna be more rumblings about that. But again, Diana Rossini, just in her last episode, her podcast episode, just indicated again that there aren't that many teams interested in Deebo for a trade. And if there are a few teams, like they're just gonna wait and see if the 49ers cut him. Well, because why not, right? Like, yeah, wouldn't hurt. Yeah, I know. So they wouldn't, if the 49ers did release Deebo, it would be with a post June 1st designation. So, but they can make that decision ahead of time. That could be reported before June 1st, and I think it would just be that he can probably start talking to teams a little before that, maybe, or negotiate with them not until after June 1st. But the NFL would know that he would be getting released at that point. So that's what I'm expecting. And then the 49ers would be, of course, off the hook of paying his option bonus. So again, that's why I think that's the likeliest scenario. And if I'm not mistaken, they would also be able to spread the cap hit through 2 years. So that'd be nice. Get a draft pick, but hey, there's some other pros to it. All right, but that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about with some of the stuff that I've seen so far in the last day. But I've been keeping my eyes peeled and just looking at all these reports. Like when I have a minute, right now, like I said, I have a minute. Wedding is later. So I have some downtime, and right after this, I'm going to the beach. So you guys don't have to worry about me. I am on vacation. I'm enjoying it. Don't worry. All right. So I'm probably done for the day. I might be done for the week. And then I'll talk to you guys Monday, if so. But like I said, John Lynch is going to be speaking with the media tomorrow. There's probably going to be a lot of updates as far as who the 49ers are meeting with at the Combine throughout the week. I will continue to update my draft sheet. Again, I've updated the draft sheet URL. So make sure that you guys please do check that out. Let's see here. So let me put it up on the screen for you guys. And it's bit.ly 49ers Draft Tracker 2025. That'll take you straight to to the draft sheet. It's still on Google Drive or Google Sheets. It's not a 1,000 long character URL anymore. So you guys can use that bit.ly/49ers draft tracker 2025. Please check that out. Tony asked Steph, do you know of anyone who released a combine spreadsheet with the results? There are always going to be people who do post the results. Someone who I follow who is on Patreon, and he has sheets that he updates quite well, a number of them actually, pre-draft sheets with a lot of this information, and he will be updating it with, I'm sure, the combine measurables. Let me just get his profile for you, because I don't remember it right now off the top of my head, but I will get you his name because he is great. He's great at that spreadsheet. He updates it pretty regularly. All right. Hold on. Oh, okay. Alex Katzen. So if you're on Twitter, Rex, Alex Katzen, that's Katzen with a K. All right, Alex Katzen. I'll put it in the chat. He's again, he's on Patreon, so you guys can check out his offerings there, because he will be updating that there. Also, around the time of pro days, he updates team attendance. I do that specifically for the Niners on my draft sheet, but he does it all 32 teams. So yeah, he's great. And yeah, top 30 visits. We'll hear more about that the month of April. Oh, before I go, one more thing. So when I did my show on Friday with Wayne, I told you guys the semi-report or whatever Matt Barrows said on the podcast with Tim K. He said that it was likely that Kyle Shanahan was going to be attending the combine. Now, on that show on Friday, I did say Matt Barrows said it was not set in stone. All right. So an hour after or later that day, the other Matt Mayoko, said that Kyle Shanahan would not be attending the combine. So Kyle Shanahan is not there. He won't be speaking with the media. Like I said, John Lynch speaking with the media tomorrow, but Kyle Shanahan will not be there again. So I have thoughts about this, right? And I'm sure a lot of you do too as well. Not that any of them matter, but I will give my 2 cents while I'm here. Do I wish that Kyle Shanahan was a little more hands-on with the face-to-face draft process, like the personal aspect of it? Yeah, like absolutely. I talk about Mike Tomlin a lot and how I love how upfront he is. Like, dude does not care if he's seen at any pro day. Like, he is so face-to-face. He will talk to players. He's on the field, like the entire Senior Bowl. He's up front looking at players. Like, he's a huge part of the evaluation process. Like, I can just tell. He is an evaluator. He loves that part of it through and through. Kyle Shanahan, however, clearly not one of those guys. Like, I think Kyle is a strictly tape guy. Everything he needs to know about a player and how good that player is, he can find out through the tape. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great process, actually. That should be everyone's process. Everything that happens at the combine should be just something to validate what you've seen on tape. And to be quite honest, you can watch that through your TV. You can. I mean, there's nothing that Kyle is missing from the testing aspect of it, the measurables. We all find that stuff out later. Like, he doesn't physically need to be there. The one part that you can't get back, and, Grant Cohn is at the combine, and he's been asking a lot of the head coaches why they go to the combine, to which all of them have basically said, the interviews, that face-to-face contact, that, like, getting to know one's personality, there's a different feel that you get for players that obviously you're not going to get through their all 22 tape, that you can only get through these interviews and talking to these players in person. And character is a big thing. It's a big thing for the 49ers. But I'll tell you why that does not bother me. Again, I wish that Kyle was more into these interpersonal relationships with players at the draft, as a draft evaluation process. But there's a whole scouting department and your GM, a lot of front office guys, who that is their job. Like, that is what they do. So why does Kyle need to be there? Like, again, I wish he was. It'd be great. But, like, at the same time, I'm like, I don't really care that much. It's, like, not that big of a deal. John Lynch, I'm sure, could just as easily come up with the same evaluation from the character standpoint as Kyle if he were there, just as well as anyone else from the scouting department. So I think Kyle trusts his scouting department, which is great. It's good. I think he trusts the scouting department enough for them to be able to evaluate players' personalities and characters more so than he could, or just the same as he could. And that's fine. That's fine. So yeah. All right, let me get to some of these comments. Strawberry Reacts asks, Steph, have you heard of any players the 49ers have met with at the combine yet? No, because I believe players don't get interviewed until tomorrow or Thursday. I don't remember. So later in the week, that's when we'll start hearing about which players have met with what teams, because that's when they'll be getting asked. But yeah, they'll be meeting with teams, I think, like as soon as probably tonight, I think. I don't have the full combine schedule because I'm not there, but like, yeah, it usually happens a little earlier in the week. Different position groups every day that teams can start to meet with. I've been seeing some reports of scheduled formal interviews, but I haven't heard of any regarding like the 49ers yet. So, but if I do, they'll show up on my draft sheet. So make sure that you guys, again, bit.ly/49ers draft tracker 2025. All right. Steph, what you hearing about Aiyuk and how? I mean, I've heard the same as you, and I talked about a little bit ago that, Diana Rossini said that Brandon Aiyuk is getting trade interest, which does not surprise me because I think it's an indication of this draft class, this wide receiver draft class. I think some teams are interested. Hearing CMC is really healthy. Yeah, I think it was like his dad at the Super Bowl week, said that CMC was going to be healthy and fully cleared soon. So yeah, I think he's probably going to get back into his off-season training if he isn't already. So yeah, it's great news. Great news. All right, guys. I'm going to go back to vacation now. I might do a show later, not later today, but like maybe later in the week. I really don't know. It's depends if I get downtime or not, which I might not. But appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure to continue to see what's going on with the draft tracker. We'll be updated every day throughout this week. We're going to get so many updates in the next week. So please make sure you guys check that out. For now, subscribe to the channel. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, peace, guys.